Two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur, where I, Dave, and Boris go on about our own thoughts and feelings on the films that we decide to go on about. We're now that we have finished off our Psycho series of events, at least as far as Norman is concerned, we are continuing down the course of films that have to do with I Spit on Your Grave. So this particular film is directed by Donald Farmer that we are going to go on about, and it is either called Savage Vengeance, and that is Vengeance spelled with an A and C at the end instead of an E and C. It was spelled wrong to begin with, so that knowing that it was spelled wrong even from the first is exactly or tells you exactly what kind of movie we're going to get into. It has been called Savage Vengeance, but it has also been called I Spit on Your Grave 2 Savage Vengeance, and also I Spit on Your Grave Savage Vengeance. It's been called several names. But let me get into what IMDb says about the film, and then we will go into first impressions, and then we'll talk about our experiences. So 5 years after she avenged her own rape, young law student Jennifer decides to take a brief vacation with her girlfriend. Unfortunately, they become the next targets of the two depraved men. So, this film does happen to have Camille Keaton recast as Jennifer, but she took on an alias by the name of Vicky Lau. So, knowing all of this, what were your first impressions, Boris?
Well, I must say the movie was, at least to me personally, a bit difficult to watch because it's a VHS rip and the sound quality isn't very good. So as I'm not a native English speaker and the sound quality was bad, I was kind of struggling to distinguish the dialogue lines, which was kind of an issue to me. And as far as the story goes, I'm usually open-minded about independent movies and so on, even if the quality is not perfect. I'm usually able to enjoy the movie if the story is good. And actually, in this case, I must say, I kind of like the fact that the rape scenes in this movie aren't as excessively long as they were in the original, because that was kind of painful to watch. So I'm glad it's much shorter in this version.
No,
Uh,
there were some other scenes that were quite long, though.
yeah, yeah, kind of true. But yeah, I guess if only the sound quality wasn't so bad, I would have probably enjoyed the movie more than I did this way.
Yeah, I think the problem with this film for me, this was a first time watch for me today, and I was having a hard time listening to the sound quality unless I actually had my headphones out, and even so, it was hard to distinguish the dialogue.
Even for you.
Even though I know English, so I get the fact that the dialogue was the way it is, and it is a shot on video quality, so it does have that shot on video quality feel to it. And the thing is, there were a lot of moments shot in darkness or close to
Uh,
darkness, and I don't
yeah.
that helped the film at all. Um, I think the rape sequences were laughable because the men all and the women's bottom halves were still fully clothed during the scenes.
Oh, yeah, yeah, good point.
So it was definitely not as violent as the first one was. So I wonder if there was something set and involved with the film where they just ended up keeping their clothes on, and maybe the actresses were like, can we keep our clothes on during these scenes or something like that. So I don't know why they did it that way. It was obvious to the viewer, so it's very hard for someone to uh, believe a rape scene if it doesn't look that way, even though it is a violent act. You expect to see that violent act. When
In a way, yeah.
when you're going into a vengeance film of this nature. Plus, um, I don't think they showed the the original rape that happened to Jennifer all that well either.
Mm, no, I think they filmed it again. I think they did it with different actors, as far as I remember, the scenes when we see these brief sequences of her killing the original rapists, they don't really match the killing scenes in the original, because I remember, for example, this scene when she killed one of the rapists with the propeller of the boat, and we didn't see that in this version,
No,
from
we
what I
definitely
remember.
did not. My guess is that uh, they had a very low budget to begin with, supposedly under 6 grand to start with. So, and this was filmed supposedly in Tennessee. I'm not exactly sure where per se, but um, yeah, that very beginning scene. I mean, I like the outdoorsy rock formation that you might have gotten like like in the Dells type area, where you got that little rock formation wall that she went down to, and then there was the little pond with the little rock thing that she sat on to read her magazine or whatever. I like that outdoorsy scene, but um, I don't know. It just didn't seem to bode well with exactly what was going on. And let's see, there were five. Uh, wait, four. Yeah, four members that they actually were killed, and one of them was hung in the original film. So when it came to the professor talking about the four victims, he explained it a little off too. Which this brings it to present day. So this is basically my gist of the basic plot. So Jennifer, who is the same writer as in I Spit on Your Grave from 1978, um, she it's 5 years later. She's apparently trying to take some kind of a class. She's in the class when um, this professor ends up asking about any like recent crime things that have happened, and someone brings up the rape of Jennifer, and the professor is like very uh, against her in the whole matter. He actually says that you know that she basically was not the victim, and that she was actually originally tried for the murder of these four men, and and her lawyers are the ones who came up with the whole story that um, uh, she basically got away with murder in self-defense. So he's not exactly putting her in a good light, and she's in the same class as. So he basically calls her out on it
Mm,
and pisses her.
yeah, in a way. Like I said, I somewhat struggled to distinguish the dialogue lines, but yeah, I do remember a scene later on when she says that he was portraying her as a crazy vigilante or something like that.
Yeah, which is basically what he was doing in that class. So she ran out of the class, ran into her friend Sam, and that's when she was stating all that. And then because she was actually saying, "Hey, I don't know why I went back to school to begin with. I'm just quitting this class." And she's like, "No, you really shouldn't. Well, you know what? Let's get away for the weekend." So they end up going off country, uh, where we don't know. We just know they went to some kind of countryside, and they end up stopping at a gas station. What do you figure? And run into a few of the locals who are a bit off.
Yeah.
And one of them, Tommy, accosts Sam while she's picking up some items. Another a guy who evidently has something to do with being like someone in authority at the gas station, Dwayne, ends up taking the guy back, being like the nicey guy, and ends up getting invited to whatever cabin that they apparently are going to by Sam. And so Sam and Jennifer end up going on their way to the cabin, and Sam is looks at the place that they apparently they have rented, and it looks like shit. So she says so. It goes off for a walk. What do you think about this whole scenario of them in the gas station and all that? Did you get the gist of what was going on there?
Well, kind of, yeah. Although at that point I didn't expect that Dwayne was just pretending to be against the other guy when apparently they were working together. uh,
Well, we didn't quite know that they were besties, so to speak. And it just so happens that Tommy is actually played by Donald Farmer, who is the director. So the hillbilly guy who seems to not really talk very well, just happens to be the director of the film.
yeah.
What do you think about that? That he's the more greasier of the two.
Well, I must admit it's kind of strange that a director would cast himself as a relevant yet not very likable character.
Yeah, and this film was filmed in 1993, so it was the early 90s. Which to me, some of the early 90s remind me of some of the early 70s to late 70s. So, um, as at least as far as shot on video films go. What? Uh, so to me, when she went on her walk, it was supposed to be dark, and I feel like some of the um, some of the walk was very short. It's like all of a sudden she was like walking up to another cabin, and she ran into the Dwayne dude in that cabin. And so, what do you think about the whole scenario about her accidentally meeting Dwayne in a totally nearby cabin? Although supposedly she got lost somewhere in between then there, and it's like all of a sudden she walked out and suddenly she got lost. That to me was kind of funny because normally it takes some time for you to walk uh, further than the house in order to get lost.
Yeah, well, I guess maybe they didn't realize they should have made the walk scene longer on screen in order to give the viewer the idea that she
Yeah,
actually spent some time walking before ending up
because
there.
they spend more time on the car traveling scenes than they do on the walking scenes. For me personally, I mean, there are some extended car traveling scenes, like while she's apparently talking to her friend, or her friend is, or she's talking to her friend. There were some extended car scenes that I don't think should have been like videotaped as long as they were. Not only for their travel to the country, but also for her eventually following Dwayne out to the cabin where supposedly her friend was the next day. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So, what do you think about this friend and her um, running into Dwayne, and all of a sudden him attacking her, and then Tommy comes into the room, and then they take her upstairs, and that whole shebang. What do you think about?
Well, in a way, it looks like Dwayne and Tommy were planning the whole thing, but then again, from what I understood, it wasn't explained how they could have known where she would walk and where they should be in order to do the whole thing the way they did. It is kind of strange, actually.
Well, yeah, because originally she invited him over, but she ended up bungling herself over to his place. It's like, okay, how was it that he was just as that he Dwayne evidently was living in a place that seemed to be somewhat near the residence that they had taken up, you know?
Yeah, well, I forgot what town the story takes place at. Maybe it's a small town or something. I don't know.
Well,
Uh,
they never really said what town it was. All we know is where this film was filmed, which was Tennessee, and even that is
oh.
kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
So ultimately, They take her up to a bedroom, which, if you notice something, that's the same bedroom in which they show in the supposed flashback of during while the professor is actually explaining the whole Jennifer situation.
Huh.
When he said that she ended up cutting off a certain member of one of the victims, privates. Well, that's the same bedroom in which they had filmed that scene in.
Wow, I didn't notice.
I noticed that it was the same colors, same bed that she took the butcher knife and just went. Uh, but it wasn't exactly a a knife in the original. It was actually a longer knife. So there were some inconsistencies with that whole situation in the very beginning.
Indeed. And also in at the very beginning, when we see those four men raping her, there is only one moment of them attacking her and raping her. And in the original, they did it 2 or 3 times, from what I remember.
Well, and there is a moment that we see after that, and in between the professor moment, that we don't even connect with Tommy, but apparently Tommy had evidently killed another girl in a bar, and apparently there was a scream queen that was up on stage singing in a rock group. Uh, uh, that goes by the name of Melissa Moore. And apparently, she was in a previous Donald Farmer film. I'm just not sure which Donald Farmer film. This is the first of it I've actually seen of Donald Farmer's that I know of. And evidently, it was stock footage that was used for the singer on stage. So, but while this singing was going on, there was a killing a stabbing killing that was happening in the woods, and it was done by Tommy's hand,
Uh,
uh,
yeah,
which we see, and it's kind of gory. But
indeed, but
there's there's a lot of close up shots, so you don't fully get to see who he's stabbing and entirely where, but it looks like it's in the middle of some woodsy like area or something.
yeah, and from what I remember, I think the scene was also dark, and the dialogue wasn't very distinguishable.
No, it kept going back and forth between the singer on stage and the killing of this woman. So this unknown woman supposedly is in this supposed cabin, as we see later on when he's actually like dressing them up and giving putting some makeup on the first victim and whatnot later on.
Yeah.
So now we get to the point where Sam is being raped, and you can actually see the clothes are still on here too. No one entirely gets naked. Uh, I mean, there are some topless scenes from both of these. Well, I didn't really see that much topless uh, on the first victim. It was very dark, very hard to see, and I think all of the actors and actresses kind of pretty much kept their clothes on, so it wasn't exactly a nudity film.
Yeah, there were a few moments when we saw some boobs, but that was it. Uh,
But so what do you think about this stabbing as scene? Could you see the stabbing? Was it very prevalent that they had actually killed her? Uh,
well, I saw the movie once earlier today, and now again with you. The first time I guess it kind of went over my head since it really is portrayed a bit vaguely, as you say. And but yeah, then I read the summary on Wikipedia. So the second time I saw it, I knew what was going on.
well, yeah,
Uh,
I kind of had to read the plot on Wikipedia as well. I mean, it's the only place that seems to even tell anything about the plot in any of events. Neither one of us has the film on hand to actually read some kind of background or anything. We're just kind of going off our visuals. So um, the stabbing seems to happen. Um, it seems like he just kind of humps her with clothes on, and then uh, we get a little bit of blood and whatnot, and we see her body laying there, and then we see them uh, uh, apparently at a bar somewhere, starting to talk about the situation in a little bit, but not before we see Jennifer has realized that her friend never came back, and she's starting to ask around town about um, her friend, and as she was starting to look for these guys to see if they might know where she might have gone, and she ends up running into Dwayne at the supermarket, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
What did you think about this whole scenario here, where she followed him in the car, and then they offered her a pie. Uh, what was the pie? It was a pork something pie.
Uh, something I'm not sure. uh,
But it
well,
it took her a while to get there. There to me, I feel like the car ride there was a little bit too long.
compared to the walk, huh?
Well, yeah, they should have spent a little bit more time on the walk. And that's one of my problems with the film. In order to get lost, don't you have to be walking for some time to get lost?
I would assume so. Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you step outside the door, you're lost. That would be a plot
Yeah.
moment. Like as soon as you step outside the door, walk a little bit down the road, you turn around, you don't see the house. Okay, I'm lost.
Yeah, that would be some paranormal scenario, I guess.
But in any case, so she eventually gets there, and she's not exactly. Her friend hasn't come down, and so they offer her some pie, and she's like, "Okay, I guess I'll try it." And she tries a piece of it. It looks like she spits it out, but again, it almost looks like she licks the plate for some reason. To me, it looks like she actually licks the plate instead of spitting it out. But supposedly she spits it out, and then they tell her the secret ingredient Well, the secret ingredient. Let's show you. Let's take you upstairs. Let's show you the secret ingredient. And they take her upstairs, and she sees her dead friend lying there, and that's when she realizes that she's no longer in Kansas and has to uh, run away from these two. And they eventually, after a little bit, track her down. Dwayne finds her. Somehow she ends up uh, hitting uh, Tommy somewhere along the way, but she ends up getting attacked by Dwayne, raped, and left for dead. What do you think about this whole chasing of her down and this whole scenario here?
Well, actually, I think there is one big problem with that scene because the story indicates that she was raped once in the past, well, in the first movie, and now apparently it happened to her again. Yet we don't get any insight into the psychological impact it has on her when such a traumatic thing happens to her for a second time. We don't get to hear her thoughts or how it affected her when it happened again. That and also there is this moment when Dwayne cuts her chest, but
Yeah,
then the next time she appears, the wound is just not there, and
that
like
would be that would probably be considered something with continuity.
yeah.
You would think that in the very next scene you'd still see the same wound. So you can tell that pieces of the scenery are chopped, almost staccato. It would have been something that would have been done in the editing room. And supposedly, Camille left the project somewhere halfway through because obviously she thought this movie wasn't going anywhere production wise, but they ended up having enough footage to finish the film eventually, and you can tell that the person holding the saw is definitely not her.
Yeah, when I was watching it
Or
for the
not the
first
saw, the
time,
Kate saw.
yeah, the first time I was watching it, I was like, wait, why aren't they showing her face now? But yeah, this explains it.
But ultimately, she gets picked up by a trucker. Supposedly, she goes into town, buys a few weapons, and then lays in wait in the woods. And it's at this moment that we see the two getting together a couple of times. Uh, I think there's a music hall that we see him in, and he's just not enjoying the scene. I don't know why. And ultimately, he ends up going into the woods and gets uh, chainsawed in half. That scene was actually pretty gruesome, and
Ooh.
I actually that's basically one of the moments that I actually somewhat enjoyed. Uh, uh,
Uh,
that was probably the best part of the film, him getting sawed in half. I mean, it actually looked relatively decent as far as splatterfests go.
Oh, pretty much, yeah. The only problem with that scene is that when he, from what I remember, tripped and fell down, like he could have gotten up and run further, but no, he just like remained there and waited for her to kill him.
Meanwhile, Tommy, Hillbilly Tommy, is back at the cabin and he's playing like house with the two supposedly dead corpses of the women that he has killed. And he is having some fun while putting some lipstick on one and ends up trying to put some makeup on the on Sam, who though she's supposedly supposed to be dead, the actress is blinking her eyes, which is laughable. Uh,
uh,
to
I
be honest,
must admit.
I mean, you didn't notice that probably the first time, but once I mentioned it, you were like, "Huh."
Yeah. Yeah, well, I must admit, I am usually open-minded about this kind of movie projects. I know independent filmmakers work with what they have. They don't have professional actors or professional equipment or anything.
The ability to say, "Hey, let's stop this now. Let's reshoot this." Uh,
Well, yeah, yeah, like
Honey, I saw you blinking your eyes. Stop that. Okay, let's reshoot this. I think he just got everything in one take. When you should have the ability to reshoot something if you know your actress isn't exactly you know doing or acting properly.
yeah,
But
well, that was kind of my point. Like, there is a difference between just not having enough resources to do something better than you did and just not paying attention. And this felt like they just weren't paying enough attention to get this done properly.
no, I think the director Donald Farmer, uh, he was doing two films at that point in time. One, he was filming a film in the spring of 1988, and from what I understand, he started to film Savage Vengeance in the fall of 1988, and basically this film it's been in three different distribution markets. The first one, um, let me just tell you here. The first one was, I believe, by Uh, Eden Productions, if I remember correctly. Oh, okay. So this was filmed in Cookville, Tennessee. That's where it was filmed. As far as distribution, I believe that yeah, this was distributed by Eden Productions, and then it was let's see. Uh, yeah, it was put out by Eden Entertainment, and then it was put out by Magnum Video, but it sat on the shelf for about 5 years, and then Oscar Video put out a nice copy, and then you get like a rare interview apparently on that copy of Camille Keaton, supposedly. But this film sat on the shelf for a couple of years, so that's why it's technically says it was filmed in 1993. But I do believe that this film uh, was filmed in 1988.
Oh, well, actually, When I was watching it for the first time earlier today, I noticed it saying 1992 at one point, but I'm not sure where. Was it at the beginning or at the end? I'm not sure, but
Yeah, it did say 1992. IMDb says 1993, and Wikipedia says that it was filmed in the fall of 1988. Uh, when it went to not see, it was distributed by Eden Entertainment, and then it was distributed by Magnum Video, but 5 years later. And then Massacre Video is where it went to, and still somewhat stays, but it's out of print as I know it now from Massacre Videos. The last copy that I saw on eBay was like $100 or so. So, uh, but we get this whole scenery where she ends up going and chases after Tommy, and she shoots his privates off basically, and you
yeah.
with a sawed-off shotgun, and you see her walking away, and then she glances back and she gives a kind of a half smile, and then she turns and starts to walk away. Now there are those who believe that while she's walking away, you can tell that's not her, but I'm not entirely sure what to tell you there. But do you think that was her in the end?
Well, I must admit I didn't really notice anything strange about that moment. I only noticed the chainsaw moment when they weren't showing her face at all. The ending scene I didn't notice, but then again, maybe that's just me. I'm not too good at noticing
And I'm
details.
I'm
Uh,
gonna be honest. I would have liked to have seen like the bits and pieces of his nards being shot like elsewhere, and him like him holding his privates down there and seeing a bit of what might have happened there a little bit more. I would have liked to have
uh,
seen a little bit more blood and guts as far as uh, what she shot off there. I was kind of disappointed with the camera away shots where you see the shotgun, you see somewhat of a blood splatter, but you don't really see like anything else except for him screaming in pain and on
uh,
the floor and yelling, "You can't leave me here like this! You can't!"
yeah, I do see why you were disappointed, especially because the blood in that scene would have actually been pretty easy to portray on screen. Like they should have just shown his
At least
pants covered in blood, and
at,
that would have been it.
at least throw a can of pig's blood somewhere or something like that.
Uh,
You know.
Yeah, well, I guess fake blood shouldn't be too difficult to obtain for a
I,
filmmaker.
even the film that I saw the other day, it looks like they put this film. It was a recent film. It was called "Sex Terrorist on Wheels." Um, uh, it was a shot on video, like Western motorcycle-ish homage to like the '70s grindhouse type shit. And there was a moment where they shot off a penis. Okay. And you could tell the penis was a piece of wood with like some kind of mushroom thing on top. So, uh,
Well, no, that's something I wouldn't really judge badly, even if you can see that it's not a real penis. that makes sense because they're not actually going to shoot someone's penis off
Well,
for
no,
the
they're
purpose of a
definitely
movie.
yeah, they're not gonna show the. I mean, I guess I'd kind of like to see the little chode be shot off, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, since it's an independent movie and they're not professionals, and I guess it's not easy to portray a severed body part and make it look
I
really
guess not.
realistic.
I guess not. But I wouldn't. I mean, even once upon a time, I put on a haunted house with my college roommates at the time, and I played this scientist. I called him. My name is Lazarus Barunkov, and we used a cooked up tomato for the heart that I ate, and for guts, I used ramen noodles. And
Whoa.
yeah, to me, even if you use like stuff like that, that would have been a little bit better. And him throwing there being some like ramen noodles on the ground or something like that. You don't even see that. You just see a little bit. So I don't know. I would have expected more.
I kind of do see why.
But what did you think about the whole film as a whole? Did you enjoy watching the film?
Well, like I said before, if only the sound quality was better and if I wasn't struggling so much to distinguish the dialogue lines, I
So,
would have probably enjoyed it a bit better than I did.
so was it a good movie?
Well, uh, I guess well, it does have its flaws. I must be honest. I'm not a person who likes to insult independent filmmakers, but
It's not
yeah, they're
insulting. It's not insulting if you're honest. If you're honest,
yeah.
was it good or bad? To me, it was bad. Was it so bad it was good? I'm not sure it's to that kind of level either. But I guess if you think about it, this was because Camille Keaton is in it. It has been somewhat billed cultishly as the unofficial uh, "I Spit on Your Grave" sequel. But as far as laughable moments, I guess as far as bad movies go, I guess you can learn from some of these mistakes as a filmmaker and know exactly what not to do. I
uh,
mean, you definitely
yeah.
sure your actress is not is like totally not blinking through the whole process. You know.
Indeed. I mean, I made a short movie myself, as you know, and I was really paying a lot of attention to details. I guess if I was in such a situation, if someone was supposed to play dead and I saw them blinking, I probably wouldn't have been okay with that. I
Or
would have. I'm sorry. What did you say?
you would have reshot it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. For example, there was actually this one moment when we had a cigarette lighter on in the scene, and during that shooting session, we did a scene, and one of the guys took the lighter home, and then we needed it next time, and it. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it was difficult to find, and I really wanted it to be there because it was there earlier when we were shooting it. So if the next shot was without it, something would have looked strange, and I wasn't okay with that. I eventually bought another identical lighter just to have it for that scene.
Totally understandable. I mean, if you want something exactly right, you have the audacity to be able to change that ultimately in the end. But probably because of how big a budget they had, they couldn't really do a whole lot of reshooting, and a lot of this was done on VHS. You couldn't exactly on on the spot just rewind the sucker and re-go over it entirely, I guess, unless you didn't have enough money for the next tape.
Well, when you put it that way, it does make sense. Yeah.
And in the 90s, VHS were more expensive at that point in time, you know. So it could have been possible that the buying of the uh, tapes were expensive too to them, you know.
Possibly, yeah.
But in any case, was there a particular favorite scene that you could take from this film?
Uh, well, actually, one interesting thing that drew my attention was the interior of Dwayne's and Tommy's cottage, where we see a ram skull and a human skull. It kind of looked like some satanic interior, which I kind of wondered why they had that on screen, since there was no word about any satanic rituals or something. But to me, it was still kind of cool to see, as I like that kind of thing in movies.
Well, it's very possible that that one victim was not the first victim that had been acquired by those two, and they were just decomposing skulls sitting up there.
Oh my! Um, that would imply that one of their victims was an animal too.
That could be possible too, but
Oh my!
in any case, I would have to go with yeah, I would have to go with that. I would have to go with the moment where Dwayne got his face sawed in
Oh
half by the chain.
yeah, yeah.
That was my favorite moment. Oh, and I don't know
And actually,
why, but even though it's laughable, but when the actress was blinking her eyes, I will not forget
I do see
that.
why. Yeah, when
I
she
will,
severed the Dwayne's head, it was actually rather well done. The only issue I have with that scene is, as I said before, he kind of could have gotten up and run further before she got there. It kind of felt like he was just waiting for her to come and get him. That was my
yeah,
issue with that scene.
yeah. Instead of him like actually trying to find her, it seemed like he went out to wait for in any case, and uh, you know, it is what is. And now, as far as the music, what did you think about the music?
Well, the music was okay as far as I noticed. Maybe in some scenes it was a bit too loud and got in the way of distinguishing the dialogue. Well, that was a problem, but as far as the songs themselves go, I guess they were okay.
Well, apparently on the soundtrack itself, I guess there is a song called "Ballbuster," performed by Rick O'Shea. So I don't know whether that is an actually real song. I would love to figure out and see if there is an actual song on YouTube called Ballbuster, because that actually sounds like it could be a hillbilly song.
Well, we can look it up later.
But in any case, well, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to this film that you thought of at first?
Well, yeah, actually, one thing I did think while watching it, the way it was made, it heavily reminded me of a sequel to another movie. Let me find what exactly the sequel was called. Uh, yeah, so there is this old movie, Rosemary's Baby, and you probably know that one. And then there is a sequel from 1976. It was a TV movie. It's called Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby. After I watched the first movie, I also watched this sequel, the TV movie, and it was also made really poorly, kind of like this one. I only found it on YouTube, some VHS rip of it, and the sound was also pretty bad, difficult to distinguish the dialogue lines. So, yeah, I was reminded of that.
I have actually not watched the sequel to Rosemary's Baby. That's kind of interesting that there is a sequel out there for the film, because there was a remake too, um,
Whew.
by someone. So we'll have to delve into watching. Um,
Rosemary's Baby remake, you say? Hmm.
yeah, it doesn't say remake after it, but it's Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, well, I will check it out later. Somehow I didn't realize there was a remake.
Yeah, at this time, and uh, a woman of color plays the woman. So,
Oh,
but in any case, alrighty. I think that's all that we have for today, folks. But there you have it. If you wanted to check it out, just for how bad the film is, and how laughable it is, give it a shot. It's at least worth a one-time watch, if not less. It- but I'm certainly glad that I did see the film,
Mm,
uh, though I don't think it's on the level of being as good as the uh, sequels to the remake of the I Spit on Your Grave franchise.
mm,
And I actually think the actual sequel that was made a couple of years back was better. So,
mm, possibly.
but
Well, like I said, I really didn't mean any offense to the filmmaker in case he saw our discussion. I guess every filmmaker has to make their own mistakes when they are learning how to make a movie. So I didn't see his further movies, but maybe he learned something and did the next one better, hopefully.
yeah, hopefully he takes our conversation in stride if he sees it. And I meant no offense by any of my comments. I just wanted us to see it, discuss it, and hopefully people enjoyed our ramblings on the film. I suppose I suppose this is probably one of the worst ones we've discussed.
Mm, Unfortunately.
But
Uh,
I don't think we're going to be any stranger to really bad films either, because we were not offended at watching really bad films. So at least
no.
according to the general public, I mean, there are some really basement ass looking films out there. So,
Kind of.
but in any case, thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning wherever you are. Hopefully, you uh, don't get offended by anything that we discussed, and we'll be continuing our "I Spit on Your Grave" journey as we check out the remake of "I Spit on Your Grave" next week. So stay tuned for more
Yeah.
exciting stuff. Although rape is not exactly an exciting thing, it is a very touchy subject. We will try to talk about it professionally. So, in any case,
Yeah, I agree.
thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. And thank you for uh, checking our discussion out. And like and subscribe to our page if you can. And uh, we just enjoy talking films for you. So, thank you.